Daniel, Tom Hitchcock, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Not too bad. I feel like I need to start this episode with an apology. Okay. I feel like I've been a bit like the Scarlet Pimpernel, been very difficult to pin down and what have you, which I acknowledge, but I also don't like doing it as well. So it bothers me. So apologies about that. But here we are.
That's okay.
We're finally talking. And as always, I'm keen to hear your story. I know our listeners enjoy hearing all the quirks of people's journeys and what they can learn from other people. So without further ado, introduce yourself, mate.
Okay. I rarely talk about myself, so this is going to be interesting. I'm in the position where I talk to founders all day, every day, and I get them to talk about themselves and don't really talk about me. So this is different. I think I'm an entrepreneur by heart. I've always been one. In school, I made friends with the older kids who all drove their cars to school, and they're all into cars. And then I made friends with one of the kids whose father had a Japanese wreckers. So what I would do is I would find out, what parts that the older kids needed for their cars, if they need turbos or spark plugs or anything else like that. And then I would go on a weekend and, bring my toolkit, pull apart the car parts, and then bring them on Monday and sell them for a profit. I was also the kid that was, copying DVDs and music and selling that, and when you're young, you make money, and that was the big thing to do. So I was always trying to turn a profit when I was younger, and it worked well. I, like most kids, I left year 12 and I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was good with money. I was good with computers, and I sort of landed into finance, and I thought this is going to be my career, and I worked myself into a good position. And then, like most founders, I got sick of the corporate world and threw it all in and started my own fintech company. And I was there for a bit, and then had a bit of an exit, and then angel investing and working for an events and marketing company in the startup space and building my networks. And over the last 10 years, I've been, working with investors and matchmaking deals and angel investing and co-investing alongside people. So that's what CapVista is. It's a investor relations as a service platform. And then I've got my venture fund, which we've made more investments, and now looking to raise our own fund.
Love it. Okay, so one of the first things you said is the thing that pricked my ear up is when you said, "I think I'm an entrepreneur by heart," and essentially there's three things that make our decision for us. We've got our heart, our head, and our stomach, apparently. Yep. And I can't help but feel that your job career is your head.
Yep.
Your business career is your heart.
Yep.
Rightly or wrongly, sometimes we go full steam ahead into something, and it sets us up to fail sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. They see the stories, and it's a big thing online where, side hustles, and you can be a founder and want to do, they watch The Social Network and they want to be the next Mark Zuckerberg, but I don't think everybody can be. It does take the heart, the head, and the stomach. You've got to have the guts for it, because it is a gamble. But you got to have the heart of an entrepreneur. The person who just keeps pushing every time they hear a no, and that's difficult.
Yes, so we talk a lot about entrepreneurs, the traits that tend to be in an entrepreneur to be successful, and there is a big passion-led play, and if you really want something, the no just gets you more excited anyway.
Yeah,
persistence v resistance.
Yeah,
sounds
exactly.
like my early dating years.
Exactly.
So okay, all right. And I resonate to where the origins are that in your childhood, where you make turning some coin left, right, and centre. Basically, your eyes are open to opportunity. It serves you well. I'm sure it annoyed some people, and I'm sure it still does.
It does. It does.
So, so you call Australia home.
Yep. Yep.
And your focus now is in investment and seed investment, angel, and so forth. What's the appetite for that market here in Australia at the moment?
I'm going to be, well, it's not controversial, but I might piss people off because Australia is an incredible country. We have incredible founders. The environment is perfect. Great, lifestyle here. The talent here is phenomenal. But we have this environment where the funds, the VC funds at the moment, are far too conservative, right? There's a lot of capital here. Now, if you've got a mining exploration company or a property deal, you'll get funded a lot faster than if you have a revenue generating tech company, because tech is seen to be risky. And most VCs, and you can ask any single founder in Australia, they've all experienced this same feedback. The VCs will say, we love what you're doing. We think you're going to be huge, but come back to us when you're making X amount of revenue. That's a common story, right? I find it's easier to get traction for the investments from the Middle East, the US, the UK, than it is from Australia. And it's highly frustrating. But what that environment has done has created a sense of resilience from Aussie founders. They know that, getting external capital is difficult from home. So from day one, Australia is a small market, so they're looking international. They're not looking just to solve a problem here in Australia. From day one, they know that it's going to be harder to get capital, so they're bootstrapping a lot longer. They're proving themselves a lot longer. And then when they do get money in, they are they're thinking about every single dollar. They're not spending $30,000 on a boardroom table or getting a foosball or pinball machine for the office. They're conscious of every dollar, and it creates this founder who is thinking about every single dollar and putting it to good use instead of the putting fancy signs or entertainment in the office, because they know capital is hard to come by in Australia. What I want to do is change that, and I've been working for the last 2 or 3 years, really selling the Australian dream to international funds. And our fund here, I'm trying to raise capital because I want to raise a large fund and then come into the market and make access to capital a lot easier. Now, I'm not saying that every single VC does this in Australia, because there are some really good VCs that are changing the game, and they are investing at earlier stages, and they're looking at deal flow and not thinking, oh, you need to make X amount of revenue before we will look at you. But the general consensus, that's every single startup founder has experienced that same feedback.
It's interesting. So I was kind of leaning into that as a response, because that was my opinion too. So we had a technology which won 2 incubator programs, where we got voted for by different investors as we went through. Everyone loved it, and no one said no. So that was the consensus there. We want a piece of it. People have offered sweat equity, blah, blah, blah. But when it came to any dollars, anything at all, okay, get beyond the MVP, get some revenue, and then we'll come in. I'm like, well, that doesn't really work. And it stalled it, unfortunately. But so I did feel that Australia, in the angel component, is missing, is not doing enough for the potential businesses here compared to other countries. So that's why that is. But what I do like about what you said is it does, for those that do persevere, and back to your point on the entrepreneur, that do persevere and push on, it cultivates the right type of resilience and mindset you need to survive long term anyway by chance as well.
Yeah, it's Australia is a great proving ground, right? We have the right environment to build a solid business, and because we have that environment, when our founders do head overseas, they are seen, they're put on a pedestal. US investors love Aussie founders because we have that mindset where we're not going to waste not one single dollar, right? I'm starting to see a lot of funds from the Middle East who have made a lot of money in resources, and now they want to diversify, and they see Australia as an incredible opportunity, right? Now, this is something to consider here. Let's take a Series A SaaS platform, B2B SaaS platform. That doesn't matter what it is. Generally, in Australia, a Series A is doing anywhere from $500,000 to about $2 million in revenue. They'll be raising between $1 and $5 million at let's say a sub $15 million USD valuation. Now, if you compare that to a US B2B SaaS Series A, 3/4 of the time they'll be pre-revenue. If they are making revenue, they are under $500,000, right? They were raising anywhere from $3 to $10 million at a between $25 and $30 million valuation. So Australian founders and their companies are raising a lot later. They're proving themselves. They have a lot more traction, and for a lot lower valuation. So what I've seen is there's almost an arbitrage play, right? We can invest into Aussie companies, help get them overseas. I've got a lot. I spent a lot of time and a lot of effort building my networks and building relationships in the US that I'm able to now take Aussie companies to the US, set them up with the right people, help them get boots on the ground. And then there's an arbitrage play, because as soon as they're set up, they are then competing with companies that are a much larger valuation. So you see the increase in valuation almost overnight. But at that point, you have these cashed up startups that have a lot of money in their bank accounts that say, hey, we can acquire this Aussie company that's just come to the US that's doing much better than we are for a lot less valuation. We can acquire them and roll it into one and strengthen our balance sheets.
Well, that's just it. So the climate which Australia then has created for startups here is appealing to overseas. So you've got them where you can go and approach them later on, like you said, and be a lot more risk averse and what have you. But they can also come in and be that angel, okay? That component that's lacking here, and probably for that reason have better terms, because if that is the route for that startup, there isn't many other options.
No. So the US is the pinnacle. That's where companies want to get to, because the market is a lot more mature. It's a lot more advanced. It's a bigger market. I mean, population wise, it's 13 times the size. Market size, it is about the same. It is a huge market, and it's mature in the fact that they've been through the cycles. So investors have invested, seen the growth, exited, and done the cycle. We still haven't been through that cycle yet. I mean, Canva was the first one-ish last year, and they exited, that big exit. Blackbird exited for over, I think over $1 billion, and some of the investors got paid out quite handsomely. So we're starting, but the US has been through those cycles, so they know about it, and they're more willing to take it up. I mean, we want to champion all these great Aussie startups that are making a name for themselves overseas, but when they were here, we didn't we weren't the best.
Okay, all right. So what would your advice be to someone who's looking to do a startup? So I know I can literally count them, just popping up in my head, of people that are looking to a SaaS product. They found a gap in the market. They've started to go through the stages.
Yep.
And with a view of investment at some point. So obviously the advice is self-explanatory on the timeline, on expectations and what have you. But what would be your advice for them to make sure that they're giving it a solid foundation for investment for whenever it comes?
Yeah, that's a good question. What I would suggest to people who want to become founders is first understand if this is the right path for you. Right, that's the first and foremost. It's a mindset thing, because being a founder is not for everybody. You have to be prepared to ride the roller coaster of emotions. You might wake up to a great email and you be on cloud 9 at 9 a.m. and then by 10 o'clock your world's crashing down, and then in the afternoon yeah, exactly. You've got to be able to roll with the punches. You've got to be able to keep going. And there's a lot of metaphors, and people throw out all these buzzwords, but you've got to actually understand, is this right for you? Now, that's both do you have the stomach and what your home life is like, because you can't bootstrap and start a family at the same time. It's incredibly difficult. You've got to have a very supportive home life to be able to do this. You've got to be able to, product market fit is the biggest one. So I see so many people that are like, yeah, we built this new technology and it's changing this. And I'm like, have you actually asked the market who's going to buy it? Are they going to buy it? What price point are they going to buy it for? Have you done all that? And they're like, oh, but we just know. And you're like, well, no, yeah. So product market fit, make sure you're in the right headspace with the right support system. Build an entourage around you. Build people who are on the same, starting point as you. So connect yourself with other founders, so you can bounce ideas, but also connect with people who have been there and done that. Because sometimes you might get a problem and you might think it's the end of the world, but someone's been through it before and they know, hey, it's not that bad. So build an entourage around you of who you can leverage off, because that support base, both personally, professionally, that's going to be the difference, right? That's going to help you get there. In terms of coming up to investment, how to get yourself prepared for investment. Well, you have to understand the mindset of the investors, right? If you produce a pitch deck that's very technical, you're going to get nowhere, right? Best thing I can say is KISS. Keep it simple, stupid, right? Imagine you're presenting to a 14-year-old. If a 14-year-old can understand your deck, then you'll be able to get, because you want to get the person on the other side of the table emotionally invested into the opportunity before they physically invest. And for them to emotionally invest, they have to understand it. They have to understand how the solution can work. And for the most part, they have to understand how they can add value, right? Because if they can add value, it mitigates the risk in their mind. And then, yeah, being well prepared, right? You need a budget to raise capital, right? Both time and money. Anybody who says that, I see a lot of founders that will create a pitch deck and think that build it and they will come works. It does not. Raising capital is a full-time job. You need to pull yourself away from your business for 6 to 9 months to raise capital, right? So your business will suffer, right? So you need to either be a full-time capital raiser, not a founder, or you need to, employ someone to help you raise capital. Right, that's the only two options. But even if you choose to go down the path of doing it yourself, you need to have a budget, right? Raising capital costs money. You need lawyers, accountants, people who help you structure the company, taxis, Ubers, coffees, dinners, flights, accommodation, everything. It costs money. So if you don't have money to raise capital, don't bother, right? Because at the end of the day, it's going to cost money, right? You want, even if it comes, even just the legal advice, right? If you get an investor who says, yep, I'm going to invest, make sure you spend the money on getting a good lawyer to do the contracts that favor you. Because I've seen so many early stage and first time founders who just accept what is put in front of them and then run into trouble down the track. This is I see it all too many times.
It feels a bit like the Ten Commandments.
Yep.
Excuse me. Of how to approach this and probably some big pills for people to swallow if they're not ready and not on a path and their expectations are different. But it's like, to be cruel to be kind, you've got to hear this stuff so you know what to expect and how to set yourself up for success, for sure. I do like how you started there with it being the right person as well, because it kind of goes full cycle on what you were saying at the beginning of this episode.
Yep.
So,
yeah.
Excuse me.
No, that's all right. Also, investors want to back the right sort of founders who can, get the company to the next level. Understanding. So this is also something to understand. You could be the right founder. You could be a founder by heart, but investors want to back someone who knows their limitations. You might be the perfect person to get it from 0 to 1, but you need to understand that you may not be the best person to get it from 1 to 10 or 10 to 100, right? So understanding your limitations, understanding where you tap out and where you bring someone in. So if you're sitting in front of an investor and they say, well, okay, what's the next 12 to 18 months? You say, well, okay, I've got it to this far. I know my strengths. We're looking to raise capital, and with that capital, I'm going to hire a CEO who has experience to take it from 1 million to 10 million to 20 million to 100 million, right? There's only a handful of people on the planet that are like the Zuckerbergs, the Musks, the Bezos, who can take a company from nothing to billions, right? That is extremely rare. Understanding that it's not your skill set is powerful.
So that's the point then. So it's really about knowing yourself as well. And you're quite right. It then comes away from the arrogance conversation into confidence.
Yes.
And to be comfortable with sharing both your strengths and weaknesses, what you've done before, so you know you can do something, rather than what I believe I can do and an extremity of it.
Yeah.
And I think that talks to that point where you're saying, what's your home life like? Are you able to bootstrap? Are you able to put the time and sweat and effort into things if you've been pulled in different directions? And that can also come with how solid a mindset they have themselves. Are they very comfortable in their own skin? Are they in a good place, even if they don't have a family and what have you? What happens when the shit hits the fan? Are they gonna blow a gasket? So that's where you're backing the individual as well.
Yeah, exactly right.
So I'll tell you a quick story. Actually, this will probably tickle you somewhat. So I was doing a talk in the Fish Burners, building in Sydney, which houses a lot of tech startups, so the front line of innovation, if you like. And it goes for the spirit of what you're saying, where you surround yourself with like-minded people at a similar stage, give or take, so that you can sort of incubate your success. Okay. But essentially, that building houses some of the most, which should be the most open-minded and growth mindset people in the country, essentially. Well, I went in there to do a talk on black box thinking, and within that talk, there's a couple of little tests for if someone has a growth mindset or not.
Yeah.
Okay. There's about 150 people in the room, I'd say. All right. And without ruining the test, okay, I asked people to put their hands up or not to one question as the first part. Okay. and it's usually sporadic. So it does determine one way or the other if they've got a closed mindset or an open mindset. Okay. In this case, 100% went one way. All right. And that caught me out because I didn't expect it. So it kind of went against me. So I was in a different situation than the norm, in a normal room with whomever's in the audience. These were very specific people, all like me, matching t-shirt for them, for their tribe and what have you. But what they fell for is they proved they all had a closed mindset straight across the line. Yeah. And it didn't match up the spirit of innovation, which is on the walls and so I went red because I'm like, how do I take this news to them? And I'm on the stage and it's a bit quite uncomfortable because I didn't know where to take it. It wasn't even an exception to it. But I quickly thought, and this will probably resonate with yourself, okay, is the reason why they all have a closed mindset is because they're so head down, bum up, laser focused on their potential unicorn that they can't see the wood for the trees. So all the cliches coming out. Okay, so they're that heavily invested that it's, we commend you. That there's a reason why. So you proved how heavily invested. But the trade-off there is it created a closed mindset, and they needed to shift that quickly, which is my advice. So you need to go out. You need to fail as quickly as possible. You need something to go wrong ASAP in this space, bounce off each other. But what's your thoughts on that situation?
I think for the most part, yes, you're right. People are so closed off. They are so head down, bum up, thinking my startup is going to be the biggest thing. I'm going to change the world, and maybe they are. But if you've got blinders on and you're looking just like this, you don't see the world around you. You don't see anything else. So in their minds, they think, yep, they're correct. They may not be. You do have to fail, fail hard, fail fast, and then keep going. I mean, doesn't Jeff Bezos put on Twitter every year the anniversary of that article? Someone, I think it was like a Financial Times or something, wrote an article saying that Amazon won't be around in 5 years because all they're doing is selling books, and they won't replace Barnes and Noble or something like that, and it's a nothing company. And yeah, it's now look at biggest company on the planet, and they do everything. But there was an article written saying it's going to fail, and it was published in like, I don't know, Wall Street Journal, Financial Times, or something like that. And every year, I think was it in the newspaper that he owns, that Jeff Bezos owns?
I'm not too sure. I've heard the story though.
Yeah, but I mean, he got 100 no's before he got his first yes. You've got to fail. You've got to fail fast, and you've got to learn from that. And you've always got to be open to feedback. Don't take it too hard.
That's it. All right, but listen, we've gone slightly over time, which is testimony to yourself and the topics. Obviously, it wasn't a premeditated topic. It's just we're talking about you, and obviously, clearly, you is everything about entrepreneurs and fundraising. So, with that in mind, anybody listening to this that'd like to make contact with you, make an inquiry, what would be the best route for them to do so?
Send me through an email, Daniel, it's d.hallawi@capvista.com. Head to our website, capvista, kapvista.com. Send me an email. I'm always happy to chat. I'm in Sydney, so I can meet up for a coffee, or I'll jump on a Zoom, whatever. All I do all day is talk. I had the same report card from kindergarten to year 12. Says has potential, talks too much. So I'm always happy to talk.
Good. All right. Well, listen, thanks a lot for your time. I enjoyed that, and I reckon some decent traction for you as well.
Perfect. Awesome.
Thanks, mate.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching this episode. I hope that you did enjoy it, had lots of takeaways from it. As before, please subscribe below so you can keep on top of any new releases we have. And also, if you would like to have your story told, just reach out with me, and I'd love to give you that platform. My best email address is tom@ purplepatchconsulting.com. Thank you.